Hello everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions and to create space on all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan, support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. Now, for those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday. We have a thought piece scheduled to drop this upcoming Sunday, so be sure to meander over to the website and check out our online content. Now, if it is the case that you're looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available on 12 different podcast platforms for your listening leisure, and we've provided you with access to the links in the description down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. Today's topic of discussion is mental health. And on the conversation of mental health, I want to talk about our relationship with fear. And I think that it's really important because a lot of us grew up not only in a fear-based society, but fear was a very huge factor in how our behavior was conditioned. And I think fear is a very important conversation to have because all of us have a relationship with fear. And depending on what our relationship is with fear, we either approach the world with arms wide open, with boldness and with confidence, or we approach the world with timidity, with apprehension, and with a certain degree of self-consciousness. And I think that it's really, really important that we take a moment and we reflect on our relationship with fear and to what extent fear is in the driver's seat in our lives and how fear being in the driver's seat has limited or enhanced our lives. And so I would say that if fear is in the driver's seat in your life, it's limiting you. And I've told you a few times in conversation, I was raised in a very religious household, but I was also raised with what I believe was a very keen awareness of fear. I was very keenly aware that there was so much in this world to be fearful of, right? And so because I was fairly defiant as a child, I was rambunctious, I was mischievous. A lot of how I was raised was fear tactics. Like I was scared to do certain things because if I wasn't scared, then I would probably do it. So I was scared into obedience, and I was scared into towing the line, and I was scared into meeting standards and expectations that I otherwise wouldn't have been interested in following. And I think that so many of what we're experiencing right now, the lives that we're living right now, the decisions that we're making right now are based on some degree of fear. And there are some people in this world who have built empires, who have built entire networks off of this fear, right? Because fear is powerful. Fear is something that is a form of honor, and only because I've experienced so much fear in the last 3 years that I start to realize what fear was, what it was for me, how it helped me, and how it hurt me. And right now, like I can say in this present moment, I have very little room for fear. I have very little placement for it because fear is actually something that I find as a hindrance, not a support. I think think what we give our fear to, we honor. And I think that it's really, really important that we are mindful of the things that we attribute fear towards, because fear will put us in a place of submission. Fear will put us in a place of obedience and acquiescence to things that we shouldn't be obeying, we shouldn't be listening to, we shouldn't be acquiescing to. And fear will also limit our ability to see ourselves and our own personal power. And so if we're so focused on the things that we're fearful of, we're less focused on ourselves, on our growth and our development, and on what it is that we can do to combat fear. And in fact, if someone who builds their empire as the object of fear, what happens is that honor, that form of worship in a sense, will create within that person a delusion of grandeur, a delusion of, well, I'm this important, big, powerful person. Look at all of the people who fear me. And I think that this illusion hurts both parties. It hurts the person who is attributing fear to this person, and also hurts the person who is the object of fear to others, because it gives them a sense that they are bigger than what they are. They are allowed to play God because of the fear that they create in other people. If you strip back the layers of fear and you look at someone who is operating with the anticipation and expectation that people fear them, you really see someone who is decrepit, who is pitiful, who is in very many ways a degenerate in the things that they pursue, in the ways that they pursue them, and in the things that they value. And here they are operating, orchestrating, moving parts, moving pieces, because of all of the people who really can't see them because they're blinded by fear. And so I think fear blinds us. I think what we give our fear to, we worship. I think fear is a form of worship, and I think that we really want to be mindful of what it is that we give our honor and our worship towards. And I think fear is one of those things where there's no good that comes out of it. And I have learned not to fear. And I remember there was this movie, if you haven't seen it, you definitely need to go watch it. And this movie really did create so many different internal struggles and internal conflicts within me. It's called V for Vendetta, and this woman who had so much fear, had so much anxiety, was just always worried about everything, met this vigilante. Sorry, this is totally a spoiler. Just to let you know. So if you haven't seen V for Vendetta and I piqued your curiosity, you want to watch it, pause this video, do not watch any further, go watch V for Vendetta, and then hear my point of view on it, because I think my point of view only makes sense if you've watched this movie. What happens is she's met this vigilante and she told him that she doesn't want to operate from fear, she doesn't want to be driven by her fear anymore. And what he does is he imprisons her, he starves her, he leaves her in isolation. There's all of these factors that take place that break her from the bondage of fear. And it's abusive. At first you're like, how can this be liberation? How can this be something that you've done as an act of goodwill? But it was because she didn't feel fear anymore. And now, more than ever in my life, after having been stalked, after having been watched pretty much every move that I'm I don't think people understand really what stalking is. You're watched, everything that you do, everywhere that you go, you're being watched. And not only are you being watched, you're being smeared. Every neighborhood you go into, there's someone who's there whispering and gossiping and saying things about you that aren't true, that are shifting people's perceptions of you. All of these different things that took place that kind of created a mirror simulation where I was starved. There was periods of time where I didn't have access to food because of where I was, and I was isolated, and I was just kept to my own company, and it broke fear. It broke me from fear. And now that I don't operate from a place of fear, I see people for what they are and for who they are, and because they need fear to be powerful, without the fear, you see to what extent they are powerless. And it doesn't mean that they don't have these abilities and they don't have power that they exercise, but it means that their power, it has no effect on me. Their power does not affect me because their power needs to be coupled with my fear for it to have a sort of voltage to it. And so I want everyone to experience the reality check that takes place when you stop honoring people with fear, when you stop worshiping people by fearing people, or worshiping entities, institutions with fear. And I think that you put these people on a pedestal that they're not equipped to be on, and you enable them to pursue different trajectories, different interests that further chip away at their character, chip away at their integrity, chip away at their humanity, right? And they become shadow versions of themselves, right? They become people who not only are not deserving of your fear, they're not deserving of your respect, they're not deserving of your regard. And until they do some serious work, internal healing work, then they just really shouldn't be the object of anyone's attention. And until that takes place. So I wanted to have this conversation around fear because I think too many people need fear to be able to do dirty deeds in the dark. And I think that we enable these people to do the things that they do in the dark because we give them our fear liberally. And I learned that because I'm very selective with what it is that I attribute fear to, and it has enabled me to see the person behind the smokes and mirrors who needs fear to be and to be perceived as someone greater than what they are. It's a position of power to see those who operate from a place of fear and needing fear to persecute, to oppress, to harm, to just torment others. Like, if you remove that veil, they can't do any of those things to you. Well, I think that a lot of us, what it is that we are struggling with by way of mental health is this relationship we have with fear. And sometimes we think it's the things that we fear in and of themselves, but it's the relationship we have with fear before we attribute the things that fear translates through. And I think if you think about the relationship you have with fear, and fear is dominating in your life, and it is the primary in your life, you need to really think about how you demote fear and demote it all the way to the ground. At this point in my life, I don't know what it is that I fear, because I firmly believe that my life is on a trajectory that's not going to be altered by anyone or anything who needs my fear to alter it, because I refuse to give them my fear. And I also believe that if you take back the reins from fear, you operate from a place of true, authentic power, divine power that each of us as human beings have. We have this divinity within us that a lot of us forget to claim because we think that we need religion to claim it. We think that we need some sort of ideology to be able to see the divinity that exists within us, and I don't think that that's the case. I think that, having some degree of knowledge is obviously helpful. Having a foundation is helpful. I think that it's very important that we recognize how powerful we are as people, as divine beings, as spiritual beings, and how much power we give if we allow ourselves to operate from a place of fear. And so I wanted to have this conversation. I think that there's just so much liberty, so much freedom, so much power, privilege that comes from operating from a place that is exempt of fear. And I've learned that, and I have been in situations that 10 years ago, I would be besides myself with fear. And now I don't blink an eye, because it is what it is. And I think that when you don't operate from a place of fear, you recognize your power to respond. And in recognizing your power to respond, you can be still. So until something tells you to respond, until there's a trigger or something that tells you definitively this is the action you need to take, you're comfortable being still, even if you're surrounded by danger and the danger does not deter you. And I think that that should be a signal to everyone around you that if you're not someone who is going to be pushed into fear, if you're not someone who is going to be intimidated into feeling fearful, then you're someone that they need to watch and they need to be weary of, because you're not going to bend and sway to the will and to the agenda of anyone or to anything that isn't in personal alignment with your highest self. So I think that it's really important, because it's a place that allows you to feel strong, to create mental resilience, mental fortitude, mental strength. And I think that a lot of us struggle to build mental strength, mental resilience, mental fortitude, because we're not first deciding how our relationship with fear and how fear plays into the way that we navigate the world around us. And fear will impact your perception. If you don't want your perception to be skewed, if you want your perception to be as close to reality as it possibly can be, then you need to take off the cloak of fear and look at things for what they are. And a lot of things, I'm telling you, that operate requiring fear, they're smaller, they're less impressive than what you think if you just see them for what they are and not for what they want you to see them as being. In any case, that's the food for thought for today. If you haven't watched the movie V for Vendetta, I honestly feel so much familiarity with that character. And when I first watched it, I was in my early 20s, and I remember I thought so much, so deeply about it. What would I do if I was put in that kind of situation? Would I be someone who wasn't fearful? Would that happen to me? And because I've experienced things that are so similar, I wasn't caged by any means, but it was really close. I understand her, and I feel so much gratitude for the fact that I don't operate from a place of fear anymore. And I want this freedom for everyone with a beating heart anyway. In any case, that's the topic for the day. That's the food for thought for you for today. Now, before letting you go, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we will be going live at least twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future on our Facebook page. So definitely be sure to tune in. Now, these events are paid events, so if you do see yourself participating in our community on an ongoing basis, then I do suggest that you take a look at one of our package plans. Yes, so we do offer package plans over and above our live events, as well as access to to webinars and workshops largely focused on self-mastery over and above these events. So definitely check it out. Be part of our Game Changer community, being part of the change that you want to see, allowing us a small role to play in your journey. We are on the road to 1K, so we do invite you to follow us across all of our social media platforms. We look forward to chatting with all of you very soon. We'll talk to you later. Just feel like no one's listening. Some days I just feel like the world's